Hi everybody, Jo here. Time for another little crafty catch up. So grab yourself a brew, maybe a cheeky snack, and I thought we'd do something a bit different today. And this is the sort of thing I'm going to create. I needed a card to send for a friend, and this is quite an unusual card, blank size, because I know you like to know what size is. And this is actually a 10-inch by, is it 7? Yes, a 7. It's a 10 by 7-inch card blank. I just like to buy my card blanks ready-made with the envelopes. And I just wanted to do something quite dramatic. You know, when we feel like doing something for a change. And I'm going to be using a die cut. I don't often use die cuts. I'm a stamper at heart. But you know what? I think when we're crafters, we have quite an eclectic mix. Well, I do. You know, I like lots. I mean, I did a journaling workshop yesterday with the ladies. Oh, and it was lovely. It was fabulous. So I like my mixed media, my journaling, and my pyrography. So many different things. So I do like die cuts. And I suddenly realised I'd not really done any videos with them. So I thought for those of you out there that love your die cuts, we're going to be doing some ink blending, some stamping, and using a lovely die cut. Now my piece of card, I've cut purely to size because I wanted to mat and layer and it fit this card blank. So mine's actually 8 inches by 4 3/4 inches. Let me check that. That doesn't look for... Oh, it is 4 3/4 inches, yes. But that is purely because that's the size of the topper for this card blank. But obviously you could, I mean, you could make it smaller and, you know, not have the stamping on. You could bring the grass a bit higher. Again, the beauty of all these things is that you can tailor them to suit you. I've just done this because this was the size I actually needed. And what we'll do, I'm going to pop that to one side and we're going to do some blending. Now, recently I've had quite a lot of people asking about blending. I did, I think it was my first YouTube video was on blending. But it's quite good to revisit these things. Now, I tend to use, I'm using Oxide ink, but obviously you can use any of your dye based. And for me, it's just the way my head works. I have them in order that I'm going to use them. And for me, I like the way these colours blend. So I'm going to start off with mustard seed. And I have a round blending tool. Again, recently there was a question about what did I prefer, and I've got to be honest, the round blending tools are very good, but I also have smoothies that I use. I also have stencil brushes, but for me the brushes give a much lighter touch, whereas this I want quite a lot of colour, so that's why I'm going for my blending, my foam pads. Crackling campfire, which is burning bonfire in my head, I'm afraid, and it always will be. And then I've gone for candied apple. It's just that sort of red that for me blends nicely with orange. And then I'm going to come in at the bottom with a bit of ground espresso, a nice deep brown, just almost to, I love the way with these designs that you can go from your light and then to this nice depth, and it really sort of grounds the design. I tend to use a piece of kitchen roll just because I'm going to get inky fingers and just to try and stop getting, oh look, you see we've got one there. So much, what did I say? Stop getting inky fingers on my card. It's a good job we have double-sided card, isn't it? Now, as you know, when I'm blending, and I'll just wipe that brown off my hands. I'm going to start with the yellow, and I always do circular motions, and I blend the ink onto my pad in circular motions. I just find it helps almost get even ink on my pad. For me, if you dab it, it's uneven, so those circular motions. And I'm going to come about, I'll say about a quarter of the way down, and I'm using circular motions. And what you'll find is with your blending, you will get some areas lighter and darker. That's just the nature of the beast. Don't worry about it. I think a lot of it comes from the way we were taught at school, and that's no offence if we've got any art teachers out there. I think years ago, the way we were taught, certainly when I was at school, and that was a good few years ago, we were taught differently. We were never given much confidence. Now I think children are empowered with so much more confidence. So that's my yellow. Now I'm going to come in with my orange. And again, circular motions. And this, I find it easier to come in from the side and almost cross to the middle. And I'm going to turn my card round just because it's easier for me. And again, obviously you're seeing this in real time. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to alter anything. However this turns out, that is exactly what you will see. Now, at the minute, almost here, we've got a bit of a dog's dinner, haven't we? And when I teach blending, I try and let crafters know this is just what happens, but you have to work at this to get that good blending. So this area now, we're going to work at this. So what I'll do, I'm not putting any more ink on because I want it quite light. So obviously there's less ink left on my blending tool, and I'm just going to come up into that yellow a little. And I'm going to come back with my yellow, and again I've not put any more ink, it's whatever's left on, and I'm going to come into the orange. And basically I'm going to work, and I'm not putting any more ink, I'm just using what's on the tools, and I'm just going to work over this area. Just to blend. And I've stopped doing circular motions now, I'm just going right across the card. And you see now, okay, we have got the odd line, don't worry about that, honestly, how it started to blend in that area. We'll do more of that in a minute, we'll come in with the red. Same thing, circular motions. And I'm coming onto the card here. And again, turn it round. And I'm sure there's a lot of you that are just doing this without, you know, yourself, not listening, because again, you're very good at this. I know so many of you are, but just in case there's a few of you that aren't, it's always good to have a recap. And again, I'm going to work in this area. Not going to put any more ink on, but I'll take the red into the orange, and then I'll bring some of that orange down into the red. Again, I'm not adding any more ink, I'm just using, you'll be amazed how much is left on your sponges. And then with my brown, and I don't worry about this contamination on the mat here, it's fine. So I'm going to come up from that brown, just bringing it up the sides a little bit more. And believe you me, your arm, if you're anything like me, your arm will ache. I'm just going to add a tiny bit of red, because these are quite deep colours, this red and this brown. So we'll blend some of the red into the brown, and then we'll come up with the brown just into the red. And then what I tend to do is just turn it round and look at it and see how my colours are working. And it's just this area here, I think. I'm quite happy with this. I'll just put, I think I'll just go a little bit more with the brown and then come back in with the red and do my across. Work my way back up between the red and the orange. But I think it's the orange and the yellow that I just want to do a little bit more work. And what I tend to do then is with the orange, I've put some more ink on, and I'm actually going to go over the whole design with the orange. And I find for me, it almost blends all the colours together. And it gives me that nice, almost that nice hue. And you see how we've almost got an orangey hue down here. And for me, I like that. It's blended all of them together. And then what I will do is with the brown, just going to go round the edges. Now, I know I'm putting brown on brown, tone on tone. But I just want to darken these edges. And I'm not bringing my... Can you see I'm not going far? I'm literally just catching the edge, and it's circular motions all the way, but I just want a little bit of a frame, not a lot. I don't want to use this yellow at the top, but I want to just give that hint. So again, just catch the edge. And if you're worried about catching the edge, keep your tool more. We had it flat before, didn't we? So just keep it at an angle and just catch that edge, just to give that hint. And then for me, put the lids on because we're going to do some stamping. Now we are going to flick some water, but we'll do our stamping first. Just because if we flick the water, then we're going to have to dry it just before we do the stamping. So it's easier. I just prefer to do all my stamping first. If you're just practicing with your blending, flicking the water on is a fantastic way of, it just hides any bits you're not keen on. And I think we all have those, don't we? But as I say, it's a great way. And obviously this is quite a large piece of card, so you do see more of the blending. If you did it on a smaller piece of card, it is much more forgiving. So before I do my stamping, I'll talk to you about the die. And this die that I'm using is from Sizzix, and it's called Songbird. And you can cut it out in different colours like this, but I love, because I love my inky backgrounds, I love to just cut my dies out of black. And if it's something you've not done, maybe have a go. I mean, I have a thing about silhouettes anyway, and for me that straight away pops with those colours. I mean, you wouldn't need to do much more else to that, would you? I mean, if you wanted, you could just flick ink, but obviously I want to add a little bit of stamping. And don't forget, for me, you could use that for something, couldn't you? I mean, this, stencil through it, put your ink through it. So again, we don't throw anything away, do we? But what I do want to do is I'm going to have that there, and it just gives me an idea. So I've got the field grass stamp. Now, as you know, this Lavinia stamp is just one of my big favourites, and it's never far from my desk. And I'm just going to use black ink, and I'm using my VersaFine Clair, the Nocturne, just because I wanted a bit of something at the bottom here. And if I just sort of put that there, it'll give me an idea as to where I want that stamping. And I'm just sort of going to try and copy that shape. We've got an art shape there, haven't we? We'll do a little bit of second generation. So obviously that's paler, so it'll look like we've got some wispy grass in the background. And we'll just put one. And again, I'm altering the height of the grass as you do, and the shape. You know, we want it to look natural. We don't want it to look like a row of soldiers. And that's enough. I don't want to add any more. I don't want to take away from my beautiful silhouette. I want to sort of add to it. Just going to stamp a wipe. Now, I know some of you have been asking you, and you don't have to clean your stamps. There are lots of crafters who don't. Just me personally, for me, I find if I don't clean it, when I'm handling it, putting it back on the acetate here, I will get black ink on my fingers, and that will end up as a splodge on my work. So that's why I am a bit of I like neat and things. So that's just a quirk of me. But you don't have to. Don't ever worry. If you don't want to clean your stamps, you know, you don't have to at all. Now, the sentiment, I have to be honest, I love hobby art stamps, do the most gorgeous sentiments. And I don't know what this set's called, because it's one of those that I love so much. I've actually taken it out of its packaging. But Hobby Art do have a website, so do go on and have a look. Now, the one I used on my original, if I bring it in, says, "Once you have tasted flight, you will forever walk the earth with your eyes turned skyward, for there you have been, and there you will always long to return." And that's Leonardo da Vinci. And I just thought that went so well with the Songbird. But I'm going to put a different one on here, because for me, I want two cards I can send to different, I don't want them to be identical. And again, with your acetate, you can actually see, I mean, I love that one, "Nothing can dim the light which shines from within." Maya Angelou. I mean, that's lovely. Or I quite like this one, "Creativity is contagious, pass it on." Albert Einstein. But what I can do is I can see with my acetate exactly, and I think we're going to go for creativity. I mean, it might be you've got a die cut sentiment you want to add. And I've got to be honest, the hardest bit I find is actually stamping it straight. So we shall just have a go. So while I stamp this, how are you feeling? How are things going? I've had some lovely emails off some of you lovely crafters. So that's great. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry for those crafters in Australia. I believe you've gone back into lockdown. So we all send you a big hug, and I hope it's lifted soon and, you know, things can get back to a bit more like normal. So I'm just going to give that a wipe. But it is lovely to read your comments, and I do love it when you all help each other out and put comments on. You know, if somebody's struggling where to find something and one of you knows a shop in that area or that country, I do appreciate that. So what I'm going to do now, because I've done my stamping, I'm going to bring in my fan brush. Now I'm tapping just a lot of the water off on the side of my pot, because if possible I want to have small flicks of water. Now because I stamped in permanent, it won't move the permanent ink at all, and I just want a few behind. It'll show up lovely down here. And again, this really brings your artwork. Look at that. And as I say, you can do yourself a night sky, or, I mean, you know, I bet you've got lots of die cuts or silhouette stamps that this will just look perfect with. Now, I'll just quickly pop the heat tool very quickly over mine. And again, remember, if you lift your card up, it'll dry it quicker because the heat will pass through. So I'm not going to do much more than that. But what I'm going to do on the grass down here is I've got a couple of these Signo pens, silver and gold, and I'm just going to add a few little highlights. Now, if you're anything like me, when I walk Eric down the fields in the morning, there's a lovely lane we go down, and the buzzard's actually been sat on one of the posts the last couple of mornings. I don't know if they've got babies, but he's been after, they've been baling the hay in the fields, and I think he's been after the mice and things. Anyway, there's a lot of beautiful field grass down there, and it does shimmer when it gets the light on it. So delicate. So I'm just using, the reason I'm using the gold and the silver is what you'll find is, if I can bring it, I'm not sure if you can you see that? Is that better? You know, I'm not very good at this sort of thing. Look, and it just catches that shimmer, and that gold I'm hoping will just reflect the yellow from the top. And then I've just got my die cut. Now, I know lots of people have different ways of adding die cuts. For me, I'm just going to use a Dries Clear Glue. And for me, I find it, I just pop a little bit on my mat, and then I just catch the back. Now, it is a Dries Clear Glue, so obviously that means it will dry clear. So don't worry if we get some on the front. I know some people like to put it on the back of the hand. There's lots of different ways, and again, it's whatever works for you. And I'm just going to get my Songbird a little bit of wiggle time, and then I'm just going to wipe my fingers because obviously I've got a bit of glue on them. And I'm going to pat that down. And if there's any bits I've missed, I can just add a little bit extra glue. But I think maybe just under that one there. There we go. That one there. Again, don't worry, you can always just catch extra bits. Oh, his beak. missed his beak off. As I say, this die, you can cut it in different colours and add different colours. I just like the silhouette, and that's just, for me, that's just my take on it. Just going to clean up these odd little bits of glue. And obviously clean up that, otherwise I'll be putting my hand in that, won't I? And then I think we'll just add a little bit. We'll just catch some of these on his head, his beak, maybe his wing, just the top of some of these. I don't want to go on every single leaf and every single sort of petal. I just want to catch some of them. And then, that didn't take long, did it? And I'm hoping that gives you some inspiration. It's just a nice design that's something a little bit different to what we normally do, but actually it's using a lot of the techniques that we've already used. Now remember, if you wanted to highlight any of these, I haven't on my original, but we can use that trick that we quite often use, and you can take your white pastel pencil and just go around the odd splodge with a nice little bit of a circle and then give it a rub. So if I do a couple, and again, by rubbing it, you're blending it in and you're fixing the pastel pencil. And obviously the darker ones will show up, and that will just, and then if you want to add a little, where's my white pen? A little white dot in the middle. But you have to find a white pen for that. Got one here somewhere. Yeah, there we go. And just put your little white dot, and that just gives you a little bit more of a highlight. So that's the one we've done today, and that's the, so I'm hoping you enjoyed that, and I'm hoping you have a go. Now it's Sunday here. Carl's just taken Elliot, our eldest grandson, well, he's 4, so he's just gone to football training. So that's why I thought I'd come in and have a little catch up with you, just spend some time with you. And I have to say, I've really enjoyed making that. And I've got 2 cards ready. I'm going to mount this one up, but like I say, when I'm going to put it on the black and the red, I think that really makes it pop, doesn't it? So we've got a couple of choices. You can add these nice orbs, or you can leave it without. And again, a couple of different sentiments. So you take care, everybody. I'll be popping back in a couple of days. I've got a Lavinia YouTube ready done for you. We're going to be extending the landscape on Tuesday, so that'll be on here on Tuesday. So you take care. Thank you for your friendship. Love and hugs to everybody. And if you're struggling, a special hug just from me. You take care. Bye for now.